This is Fam Electric Ghost, and we're live on the air with Vesela Mangeyna, and you're an ICF certified coach, speaker, and mentor. Welcome to the Fam Electric Ghost podcast. How you doing today?
Thank you, Kate. I'm great. I'm great, and thank you for having me on your podcast. I'm very excited about our conversation.
It's great to have people from all over the world. We get to talk to a lot of people, like since 2016. But a couple of things we ask anybody guest on the show before we get into the heart of your story is what motivates you, and why do you do what you do?
Yeah, it's a great question. Actually, the biggest motivation for what I'm doing is to change people's lives, but not for the sake of changing people's lives, but with the purpose to transform their lives for good and unleash their potential. Because everybody has come to the earth with a specific gift, but few people are living their real potential and their real gifts. And although some lots of people have similar gifts, like for example singers, all
Mhm.
singers have the gift of singing, but people have different gift to sing different things and to inspire people in a different way. So my objective and my purpose is to help people live their potential so that they can live a more meaningful life and a fulfilled life. So when you come back one day and see your life like a movie, just to be able to say, I'm happy that I lived exactly that life. So this is my biggest motivation, to inspire people be themselves and live their authentic self. Because lots of people today, they just live a life that other people expect for them. And this is the biggest topic I'm in and I'm working on with my clients. And this is my biggest motivation why I do what I'm doing. And very often I'm advising clients and people I'm working with to do what they can do, not what other people can do. This is
Mhm.
very important because we are trying very often to do what successful people are doing, but it doesn't mean what successful people are doing it's going to work for us as well. So
Yeah.
we need to find our own way, what we want to do, and our own way to do what we want to do. And this is my biggest motivation, to inspire people to live their authentic self and to have a more meaningful and fulfilled life.
Yeah, I think that's a big piece of what I try to do with the podcast is like give people a platform to talk about their authentic self. Like, because a lot of times people are comparing each other, like, keeping up with the Joneses is a common term, like in the US. But this idea, like, even social media, you have all these influencers and you got all these young people seeing these influencers and they want to be like them. And my whole
Exactly.
thing is like, as a record producer and musicians, like, I run into kids and or younger people, and they always want to be whoever is hot, right? Whoever's big. And I'm like, you know what? Like they're already there. They're already out there. It's like what you have is the song that you're scared to show me. That is what you have. Like what you have is the song that is uniquely your voice. But a lot of people will try to come to you and sound like somebody in the top 20, sound like something that's already there. And it's like, well, that's, and a lot of people, I think that's, everybody thinks that that's what you should do because that's what the algorithms do. You see people with cat videos, they're doing all these cat videos and there's like using the same song. Even like social media tells you to use a song that everybody else is using. Like, why would you do that? Like, then you're gonna be something that's already out there. The whole thing is like your secret weapon or secret sauce is you. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of people don't believe that because they think they got to be somebody else. So it's interesting what you're talking about. Is I think we're on the same page.
Yes, exactly. And the biggest mistake people do today, and especially young people, is to compare to other people. And by being on social media and looking at the successful people, they do not realize how the successful people get to that success. They see the end result, but they don't see how they started, what they did. and they want to go directly there very quick, here and now. And this is the biggest mistake people do. And I've got a client a few weeks ago. She told me, I'm very happy that I was able to understand what does it mean that I'm a unique. She said, I understood that I'm a unique. Most people, they would say, I also know I'm unique, but this is intellectual knowledge. People do not live their uniqueness. And this client of mine, she said, now I understood what does it mean to be a unique and to live my unique self. And it's a very good thing to know that you're one of a kind on this earth. And starting from this point, when you look at the mirror and you really realize that you're unique in the way you are, you're authentic, you're perfect in the way you are, and find out what are your strengths, what are your biggest talents, and develop them, use them in the most unique way. That is your way. Yes, you can learn from other people. You can learn from people before you, successful people, but remain unique and remain authentic in what you're doing. The biggest mistake young people are doing, not only young people, but
Yeah, a
people.
lot of people.
Yes. And social media helps for this practically.
Yeah. The problem is, like, it's hard to get, unique voices out there because the people are using all these filters. And there's a lot of people running like big business or corporate world or the kind of gatekeepers seem to have forgotten a couple of things. I remember there's a famous musician, Frank Zappa. And Frank Zappa said during the 60s and 70s, the record producers or the owners of the record labels, he had this conversation. It's on tape. And he said, those guys didn't really know what we were doing as artists. But they said, you know what? I don't understand it, but maybe somebody else will. And he said the problem, he said today, was at the time he did the interview, it was like in the 90s or something. He said, like, there's a bunch of people who think they know everything, and then they don't allow the unique voices to come out because they're not like these older record owners that said, I don't get it. I don't know what the young people want, but I'm going to give people a shot because I don't know what I don't know. I'm just going to allow people to do that. And if you have people who think they know, then they tend to just want to repeat the same thing over and over. And this is kind of what you see today. You're like people just want to replicate something that's successful, and they're like they're adverse to any risk, very risk averse. And like the whole thing about being a human is like risk is part of our DNA.
Yes, exactly. And actually, this is the fast track to success. Probably that's why many people want to go there, because they want a fast track to success. And there is no shortcut to success. You have to start, and nobody gets to a mountain, to the peak of a mountain, like starting from below, and he's just for a minute he's at the top. He needs to prepare before starting going to Everest, for example. You need to prepare before that, and then you start climbing, and you never know whether you will reach the peak or you will not. And this is what we are missing out, because due to the globalization, the information technology, we just see the end result, and nobody is able to understand what is actually the journey people went through, those who are successful.
Yeah, they think it's like a 0 to 100. And the thing is like an artist, we can tell you, like, there's like 10,000 hours of actually learning your instrument, right? Like an athlete, to get that 3-point shot, to be able to get that play, they've done hours and hours, like thousands of hours. So It becomes like muscle memory. Like a musician, in order for me to play my instrument without looking at it, it's tons of hours of practice. So it becomes something I don't have to think about. So then it's like, so the same thing is like if you're a public speaker, it's like the first time you do that TED talk, it's going to be whatever you got to that point, right? The more talks you do, you're going to get better. Now, once you got to that TED talk, you think you're at the pinnacle, but you're going to do more than that. And people just think it's like, oh, wow, they just went and did that. They're just amazing. It's like, no, there's a whole process before you even got there.
Yes.
and people don't see the work. It's like what we see as musicians is all these happy accidents, right? And a lot of times people think like we just totally designed everything, and it was just designed to work. A lot of times it's an accident, certain, and not that we don't know what we're doing, but sometimes things are not as planned as you might think. And like scientists will tell you that it's experiments that you have ideas, you have plans, but sometimes like the unforeseen thing ends up being better than what you were working on, and you have to have the confidence or the ability to actually know to discern that and not push it down.
And actually, one of the things why people they want to succeed quickly here and now, because they see many people that are successful, but they don't realize, on the other hand, not only the journey of that successful people, but what they see, whether is it the real thing, what they see, because in social media you see many things, but are they really real?
It could be
Or
manipulated.
yes, because very often people are there so beautiful, so nice things, and when you meet in person, it's like a completely different person. So it's one thing, you don't know whether, and often we compare our worst moment in life, we compare to the best moment of other people's at that moment. And we don't know whether this best moment of other people is exactly a best moment, and whether it's a real thing. So this is another mistake people do, and that's why I often say, please do not compare to other people. This is the biggest enemy of confidence. So if you compare to other people, it's an enemy of your confidence. And just compare to yourself from yesterday. You need to compare only with yourself. And another reason people why they're following successful people and then they want to succeed quickly is because they're afraid of failures. They
Mhm.
don't want to make mistakes. They're afraid of making mistakes. And exactly people who has grown up, who has reached their peak in their sphere, they have many failures before that. You
Yeah.
can never reach a peak without a failure. And I often give examples with sports people in tennis, or everybody who reaches the peak. No tennis player who is successful like Novak Djokovic, like Rafael Nadal, like Roger Federer,
Mhm.
all of them has had their failures.
Yeah. It's just common because as a musician, people don't realize, like, actors, musicians, all creative people, all athletes, it's a process. Like it's like you said, mistakes are actually part of the whole thing. Like in order to failures, like you can't be successful without learning from things that didn't work. Musicians, we have tons of songs nobody ever heard.
Yeah.
We have things, experiments that we try out, and we keep on perfecting. And there's a lot of stuff you never see. It's like filmmakers, like what's on the cutting room floor. Like writers, like what's all the content that you didn't get to see as a reader. There's a lot of work that goes into anything you do. Like you said, the athletes, they had to go through all these different levels to get to a certain place. You don't see all that work.
Mm.
People just want to think they can do it, like, oh, I'm going to there's 5 easy steps. It's like there's no 5 easy steps, no
Yes.
10 easy steps. It's like there's thousands and thousands of like efforts. And a lot of times, like there's musicians that we've pointed out this thing called, like, there's no bad note, there's an opportunity. Right. As you're learning, you might hit the so-called bad note, but then you could actually say, you know what? That could actually change the direction of what you were working on.
Yeah.
And that might not be the bad thing. That's probably a good thing because
Yes.
like what you were doing, if you just keep on doing the same thing, it's boring. But if you actually are willing to like adventure into like the unknown,
Yeah.
into the little bit of the deep end, right? Of maybe you're not the best at that and you're going to attempt something. But in the attempt, that opens your mind. It opens the possibilities that then suddenly you go into new territory. And that's innovation. It's like you can't get to innovation if you keep on just phoning it in and doing the same thing every day.
Yes, exactly. And actually, failure is an experience, and you can grow only through experience. And I often say that obstacles are not obstacles, challenges are not challenges. Challenges are practically our growing. We grow
Absolutely.
through
Yeah.
failure. And if people change their perspective, because this is what I do in coaching and mentoring, help people to change the perspective. And if you look at the failure and in the obstacle, not as a failure, but as a growing, then
Hmm.
completely different picture for you. It's like different energy, different perspective, different way how you can look at things. And practically being on earth here, our purpose is to grow, and we can get to our success by growing, and experience is learning and growing. And this has been very difficult for me. I used to be perfectionist. I used to be a person who do not do the first step because I don't see all the steps. I do not
Hmm.
do the first step because I don't
Wow.
know whether I'll be the best of me. And it's better to make a small step rather than not doing a step at all or
Yeah, little
analyze.
wins. Like if you can have little wins every day, and like sometimes, like I do software design as my day job.
Mm,
And in software design, we used to do this thing called waterfall. And waterfall, we had to actually have the whole idea kind of planned out. Now we do this idea called agile. Now, in agile is an iterative process that it doesn't have to be perfect. And the example of this is on your cell phone every day. You see these apps always updating. As
yes.
software engineers, we realized that that software is not really done. We got to the point of what we knew at the time. We put it out, but the next day we find something we didn't know and then we fix it. So you get iterative development. You get version 1.1, 1.2, 1.4, 1.5. You can take that same kind of concept. It's not just IT. You can use that in your life to realize like just because it's not perfect doesn't mean you can't put it out. It means you can't throw it out into the world. We do it all the time.
And I love this. If it's not perfect, it doesn't mean you cannot put it out, and it doesn't mean it's not working. It's
Yeah.
working, and people are using it, and people are enjoying the application or the software or whatever is there. People are enjoying it. They just next version is better and better. But if you haven't started with the version one, you will never get to the
Yeah, you never
really.
get to it because we used to wait years in the old style in this waterfall back in the 70s, 80s, 90s. It took years to actually get something out. Now we can actually put things out a lot quicker because it's not perfect. We know we actually even have planned future development, but we said we're going to put this iteration out, knowing that there's other features that aren't there yet, or they're bugs that we know we got to fix. Doesn't mean we can't get it out there, and that's like a revelation to a lot of people. Like a lot of artists, like indie artists, or sometimes alternative artists, or the punk aesthetic was this a really interesting thing in the 70s. Like you got a band like the Clash,
Mm,
and Joe Strummer is not your average singer. He is a punk singer, but his voice wasn't what a pop singer had. You know, it was like what's the kind of voice is that? Or even Bob Dylan, what kind of voice is that? It's like people who are willing to put their voice out there because they felt like they had something to say, and they didn't care that it wasn't Nat King Cole or Frank Sinatra or Marvin Gaye. It was their own voice, and it was like different, and you didn't need to compare it to what had been done before because it needed to be heard because it's that newfound thing.
yes, I love this about it's their voice, it's your voice, and this is very important. And when I'm working with people every day, actually, what I noticed, people do not express their own voice. They are expressing some other voices. It's either the voice of society, the community, or parents, or where you've grown up, but it's never your voice, your authentic voice.
Mhm.
And therefore it's very important everyone to understand what is my talent. Everyone has at least one talent. Many people has all people
Many
has
hats.
many.
Yeah, a lot of people have a lot of hats, and then like they're like neurodivergent people. Sometimes they have a lot of different things, and they can't focus on one thing. And then people are like well, then they can't you can't work in society. But then people are starting to figure out that a lot of people who are neurodivergent are highly creative, and you actually need people like that. But some people don't fit in the box. So the problem with a lot of corporate society or structured society is like, artists in particular, like we don't always fit in the box.
Yeah.
We kind of live in this world and we tend to go our own way. But then we get the world starts saying, well, I need that. I need that kind of, but then they want us to fit in a box. It's like, you got to get, then they say this, it's like, well, you can't capture fire and or lightning in a box without it like maybe reacting to it's not going to work. Exactly. You're going to capture a little piece of it, then it's going to get like it's too constrained. It's not going to work.
Yeah, exactly. And many people, they want to fit to the box. I worked for the corporate world for 13 years, 3 years, in the finance corporate world in Bulgaria. I've been in the United States for quite some time as well. I studied in the UK, and usually people, they want to fit to the box. They want to fit to certain structure. They want to fit to other people's opinion, to the good opinion of other people. And this is the biggest enemy. We are looking for approval, for validation from outside, instead of looking for validation from inside, from your inner voice, inner intuition, who you are from inside. We are often looking for validation from outside.
Yeah. I think that's a big problem because like, I was working in corporate America and I kind of went with small business. The reason I went with smaller business is they were more willing to be out of the box. And I started to think it's like a musician, right? Like we're looking for things that are like, well, in some cases we're looking for things that are like in tune or in frequency or that have our mindset, that have our style. But sometimes like you evolve. And you could start at one style and then go into another style, like a Miles Davis. He was bebop, then he created fusion. A lot of people felt bebop was the pinnacle of jazz. When he went to fusion, they said, "Well, that's not jazz." But he was like a foundational creator of jazz, and then he went a different direction, and people didn't know what to do. People were like, "Oh, you're changing the canon, you're changing the structure." People don't know, like even Bob Dylan, he was a folkie. And when he went electric, people said, well, you can't do that. And it's really sometimes when you're in the canon, then you actually make the decision to not be in that. It shows you how tied people are to like sameness.
Yes.
Even somebody who's an innovator, they only want them to be in that one place. And that's fine. You might only like folk music, or you might only like this type of thing. That doesn't mean that person doesn't have the right to go somewhere else and do something else.
Yes. And here comes the judgment. Very often people are judging. They don't realize, but they're judging. Rather than accepting other people the way they are, being curious, okay, let's see what he's going to do in the other style, what we're gonna see from him there, people are judging. And this is how the brain works. Many people are in the judgment mode, if I can say like this, rather than accepting. But it means that they are judging themselves as well. And this is another thing I'm very dedicated to help people accept themselves the way they are. Because the moment you accept yourself the way you are, the moment you start loving yourself, when you look at the mirror and see yourself and you laugh and like yourself the way you are, neither more nor less, but the way you are, this is the moment of change. This is the moment you accept yourself. This is the moment you can accept other people as well. And rather being judgmental, one should be curious what more is coming, what more this person can bring to us, what more I can bring to the world. And this is the game changer, to change the judgment with curiosity and acceptance. And this is where authenticity lives as well, in the
Yeah.
acceptance, the way we are, because everybody wants to be perfect, starting from physically to be perfect. Everybody, many people are doing many things to their physical body in order to change themselves, to look better and nicer, and they do many things which make them not being the way they were born.
Hmm.
Meaning, they make many things that do not allow themselves to be authentic. And instead of being authentic, they're working for their inauthenticity. And this is the first step. If someone wants to become authentic, the first step is to stop being inauthentic.
Yeah. But there's a lot of problems with vulnerability. Like artists, kind of our secret sauce is our ability to be, you know, authentically vulnerable,
Mm.
right? Because the thing is like an artist has to have a little, well, they have to have some armor to a certain extent to be able to tread outside of the bell curve, right? Because if you're in that bell curve, you're going to be kind of in the sameness of being in a box. But when you're that vulnerable self, you're willing to kind of stretch to where something might not be accepted. People, you put it out and they go, I hate it. The people just, they'll rebel against it. So I can't do that. And a lot of people, because it's really kind of human nature, going back to our tribal self, is like if you were in the tribe and you got kicked out, then the wolf might get you or the saber tooth might get you. So then there's no safety in not being part of that tribal structure and just staying, you know, in line. If you get out of line, you might get booted out. You might get ostracized. You might get, and so today we have these kind of wolf at the door. It's not physical wolf at the door.
Mm.
It's like a social wolf at the door, or it's a verbal wolf at the door.
Yeah.
So there's no physical danger necessarily of you're going to get, you know, you're not safe, but you feel unsafe.
Yeah, and practically, it's very much about the wolf here in the mind. It's like a criticizer. It's the fear that you've got, and the more you think, the bigger the fear becomes. And the fear is something that is not real. If you are out there, the wolf is a real, how to
Yeah.
say it? Real. But the fear in your mind is just the projection of your mind. And this is very, very dangerous, because people get to, very often they think what might have happened, what could happen. And they think about 10 steps ahead, but you can see the second step only when you do the first step.
Yeah, you're not in the present. Like sometimes you, like if you're a jazz musician versus a classical musician, and I've run into this, like classical musicians are reading off the sheet. They can sight read, and that's cool. And they have a lot of capability. And the
Mm.
thing that I was really amazed is like I brought like a classical musician into a jazz like session, and they wanted the sheets. They wanted to know the notes ahead of time. And everybody in the band is like, the jazz band's like, we don't have the sheets in front of us. We just kind of feel it. And they could not let go of have, you know, even though they're a musician and they could play by ear, they have the talent. They've been trained. They're just as good as us jazz musicians. That they couldn't get it out of their head that they had to have it on the page. They would not trust their own ability to be able to hear it and play it by hearing it.
Yeah.
And it took a while for the, you know, and sometimes they would just not want to be involved and get and not even come back. And other ones would actually struggle, and then they actually figured it out that they had to let go of some things to be in that environment. They had to let go of the sight reading and kind of like just to kind of accept what it is. And that's hard. People have a hard time getting into a new place.
Yes, like, and this is where we become vulnerable. And you touched upon very nice thing. It's the trust. It's the trust to trust in yourself, in your capabilities. Because if you're a good classical musician, then definitely you have the base in order to try other sectors as well. But this is the trust in yourself, and this is the courage to do something new. And another thing is not only to trust in yourself, but to trust the process. People do not trust the process. If you do the right thing will happen. You just need to figure it out what to do, what is the right thing, and to do it without thinking about the result. Because very often people set a goal and they work for the result. They're not focused here and now on the journey. They're very much focused on the result, and this creates tension for them, and this creates pressure for them, and they become anxious like this. And this is how they lose, because they're very, very much attached to the result. This is a big thing. I'm facing this thing with my clients on a day-to-day basis. When you're so much focused on the result, you want to get there, you want to get that client, you want to get that promotion, you want to get that interview to go right. So you're very focused on the result. And this is where people, instead of focusing on the journey and the way they're growing, what person I will become going through that challenge, going through that interview, or going through that new challenge, what person I would become is a better question than I'll gain that client? Will I be hired at that job?
Mm-hmm.
So because when you're imagine you're having an interview for a job or something that is very important for you, and if your focus is on the result, you will not be able to focus on the questions or
the moment of the interview. Like you need to be like, you're thinking 10 steps ahead.
Yeah.
Right. And you're not in the present moment.
Yeah. And same with the athletes. I'll give an example with tennis as well. Again, so if the tennis player is thinking about the final game or the next, how the game will end, and he's not focused on this very hit, he will lose.
Yeah. Because you have to be in the moment itself. Like if you're a musician and you're playing the concert, if you're thinking about the next concert instead of the actual song you're in, right? In the moment you're in, like you're not paying attention to the crowd. You're not paying attention to the room. The room might have elements that you need to like change the way you're playing because the way the room sounds, right? And then the people might not be actually hearing your song the way you intended. So you might have to adjust the way you're doing it. But if you just say, well, I'm just going to stay with the plan. Sometimes you have to, like, if you're giving a speech as a talker, like somebody doing an event, and you're a public speaker, and the room's not picking up what you're doing, and you have a planned speech, but there's like, if you stay with that planned speech, you're gonna die. You're like, it's not gonna work. It's like a comedian when their joke's not working. They immediately flip to something that does work, and they kind of can do it real-time correction. It's like musicians, we can do it too. It's like we can see, it's like, oh, that's not working. We adjust it in real time. Now, when you fail, it's like when you didn't adjust, because you're like so focused on just keeping it the same or keeping it in the plan. Well, that plan's not going to work for this place.
Yeah.
So that's that's the thing, is we have the capability to adjust, but sometimes we won't.
Yeah. And actually preparation is very, very important here, because when you said public speaking, when you're talking about public speech, it's very important to prepare well. When you're prepared well, you're able to adjust. But if you haven't prepared well for the public speech, you won't be able to adjust, because you're thinking how I'm going to do this speech. You're thinking about what your statement, your main messages and everything else, and you cannot adjust. That's why it's very important to prepare well in advance in order to be able to adjust at the very right place, based on the audience or the setup or everything, because it's energy. Like our conversation at the moment, what you're gonna say and ask me what I'm gonna say, it's here and now. It's not like if I have prepared what to say, then I will be completely inadequate here. But when someone is prepared previously in advance. And then you are able, you relax during the public speech, and you're able to adjust. And if you imagine like present, past, and future, like circles or balloons, very often the present balloon is very small. The past balloon is huge. The future is huge. But here and now, it's very small. And we will never run out of now. Now
Yeah.
we will always have now. Never run out of now. Past is the past. Future has not yet come. But now is always now.
Well, the now is like I like to be in the present moment as an artist, because if I spend all my time thinking about the past, then it's like, well, yeah, I already did that, right? So if I can actually focus on being present, and actually having the situational awareness to know, like, in the moment that I'm in, because as an artist, like, that moment has a lot of capacity. You can do like anything unless you have a limiting belief, right? That you can't. Then you've kind of limited what your tool set is, what your palette is, because you kind of got a hang up. If you got a hang up in your head, then you will make missteps. You will make mistakes. Now the people who make mistakes, like a lot of musicians will make mistakes, and the audience doesn't even know it.
Yeah.
It's because we're able to recover. And you didn't even know, like a jazz musician, they hit the wrong note based on what they had played before, but the whole band will adjust to that note. Herbie Hancock talks about this. He was playing with Miles Davis. He hit a chord that was wrong for the song. Miles did not play the note that would have been expected. He adjusted to the note that Herbie played. So the song changed. And he was willing to just not just make it go bad by knowing, it's like, well, if I keep on doing, like, Herbie just played something different, so now I have to adjust. So you adjust. But if you're kind of very tunnel vision, like, well, this is my song and this is my thing, I'm just going to stay on the plan, then it will actually go wrong, and the audience will know it's wrong because it will sound discordant.
Yes.
It'll go off the rails.
Yeah, this is the fixed mindset. Many people live with a very fixed mindset. They have very rigid expectations. What this must happen. People do not live in the way like I anticipate something should happen or it might happen. We allow many things to happen. We are open and we are here and now. But when we have a fixed mindset, then we are very fixed in what we have preliminary intended to do. And if something different is happening, then we are done.
Yeah, you can see it with athletes if they've studied a play and then that play goes off a little bit. Now, the really awesome athletes, like, they know all the plays, but if something different happens, they adjust and they actually can save that play. They can actually adjust. But if you're too rigid, it happens with all kinds of things. It's like you have the benefit of all that 10,000 hours of practice, but you also have to have the benefit of agile thinking and agile practice. So if something changes a little bit, that you can adjust to it because you've got all these examples. And just because it didn't go exactly, you have all these other things that you could do. And so the really great, somebody who can really think on their feet or act on their feet is able to make an adjustment in real time. And then people say, wow, how can you do that? Because you're not closed off. You have more of an expansive mindset.
Yeah. And one of the things is when people, if they do a mistake or if they do something wrong, the moment they remain here and now and authentic and relaxed and are allowing the solution to come up, because when you are anxious and when you are nervous, you block yourself and you cannot find a solution. But when your mind is relaxed and you trust yourself that even something is going wrong, you will find a way. If you live with that perspective in mind, if your mindset is set up that there is a way, I will find a way, I'm capable to find a way. So you are relaxing and you're allowing to your brain to bring you the solution, because we have 4 levels of mastering the information we are getting, 4 levels of learning, let's say like this. The first level is unconscious incompetence. So we don't know what we don't know. We don't know what is existing out there. This is the lowest level. Next one is conscious incompetence. I know what I don't know. And this is where people quit most of the times. I know what I don't know. Next level is conscious competence. I know what I know. And the fourth level is where really the mastery is unconscious competence. I don't know what I know. And this knowledge that have been accumulated throughout the years and this experience, it comes just right in the moment. If I'm sitting down and thinking, okay, what I'm gonna say today, what I'm gonna say tomorrow, if I have I will not be able to figure it out everything. But things that I'm expressing at the moment, they're coming now based on the current vibration, energy, and what is now available for me. And I'm allowing this unconscious competence to just come to life. And this is where people, if they know these 4 levels, and we function like this, and if they trust to themselves that they will find the solution in the very right moment. I don't know whether I will tell you a very interesting story I've written about. Let me see whether I'll say the right name in English. Aristotle is like Yes. He never, when he was talking, he was never writing down. He was believing that the true knowledge and wisdom is raising in the dialogue, in the conversation. So he was never writing down, because he knew, he understood, he believed that the real wisdom comes into the conversation. So the real solution can only be reached in the very moment.
Yeah, it's like a flow state, stream of consciousness. Like I've talked to a lot of artists, like that. Like if you're in that flow state, that you could have a plan. Like I have authors, like they build a world, they build character design, but then they go into this like flow state. They're at the typewriter and they just go off. It's kind of like the ability to pull from your subconscious while you're conscious, and it also pulls from the outer and the inner. It's like the muse. The romantic poets used to talk about the muse, and a lot of artists are like, we can channel. And what channel means is like, in the moment, I'm pulling from my subconscious, I'm pulling from my conscious state, and I'm also pulling from the outer. And it kind of, am able to kind of merge everything, and it will just flow. If you trust that you have the ability to do it, and it just happens, and people will say, well, how do you do that? Well, because you have to start to trust yourself. If you don't trust yourself, you can't do it, because then you'll say, well, then you're like, oh, you keep on starting and stopping. You start and stop, and you want to start over. But when you get to this kind of flow, you don't see that kind of start and stop. It just kind of feels like very organic. And like, well, how it's hard to explain to people exactly how to get there, but a lot of it is like getting rid of your walls, to getting rid of your limitations, self limitations, or your bad self talk.
Yes. And actually, the basic of my work and what I'm doing is exactly to help people to move from by me mode, where everything is happening through force, and you push things and you get the control on things, and going through in a mode to live your life through me, like through the flow. You're in the flow. But there are two very important things in order to be in the flow. It's to release the need to control, not to stop controlling, to release the need to control things, And the other thing is to trust the process and to trust the universe. And whether Einstein is saying the most important decision everyone has to take is whether you live in a friendly universe or in a hostile universe. So if you believe you're living in a hostile universe, then your negative thinking, negative affirmation will come out in limiting beliefs. But if you believe you live in a friendly universe, but it's not like a belief, somebody told me I have to believe in this and you believe in this. It's like inner belief of yourself. Yes, I live in a friendly universe and the best for me will happen.
Yeah, it's
Then
like a law of attraction.
changes.
It's like a law of attraction. Like if you're radiating a lot of negativity, then like all the prickly people seem to come around you.
Yeah, because you're broadcasting this. It's like a broadcasting. If you're negative, you're broadcasting negativity and you're attracting negativity. But if you're positive and you're calm and you're relaxed and you're trusting, you're just vibrating like this and you attract what you brought.
Opportunities. Like if you put things out there in the world without wanting like something, like a lot of people is like, I want something from somebody. Like if you don't have the expectations that they're going to give me something if I do this, if you do it because it's just like it feels like the right thing to do, and if you pay it forward, you do something and you're not expecting anything, then guess what? Stuff starts to happen. Things come to you because you're not trying to be so directed that everything is a transaction. If everything's transactional, then you get what you get.
And actually we attract what we are. We don't attract what we want. We attract what we are. And therefore it's very important people to be focused on what they are, what they're how they're vibrating, what they're broadcasting, what they're thinking, because we attract what we are, not what we want. Because we might want mentally and rationally something, but we are very anxious, we have bad emotions, negative emotions, and then we attract what are our feelings, what is our state of the body, and what is our feeling, not what is our thinking. Our thinking is just our thinking, but it's not attracting. The way we feel, the way we are, it is what we are attracting. That's why it's important people to focus on working on their state being rather than doing, because when you're in a mode of being, you're attracting things, and instead of running after things, pushing things, they will come to you. It's better someone to focus on how to become how to raise my energy, how to raise my consciousness. If you focus on this, then you will attract the right people. You will attract the right events in your life, instead of running after the events, instead of going after people and looking for them and pushing them and running after them.
Yeah.
And it's very popular nowadays. Many people are talking about this, but not many people really understand what does it mean. And if you really change your state, you can change your life, because the outer world follows the inner world. So if someone wants to change his life and live the life of his dreams, he just needs to change him from inside.
Yeah, it's like the microcosm and the macrocosm. Like in sociology, it's like if you change like the inside, then the macro and the micro are interconnected. So if you're out of alignment, then it's like the universe is kind of looking for things that kind of radiate frequencies, like we've been saying.
Mm.
If you're doing frequencies that aren't going to attract like opportunity, then you might get stuck in a loop. Like if you're into something that just like you keep on repeating the same thing because you're not learning. It's like a lot of people they think they're going to change the environment, but they don't change the behavior.
Yes.
So if you go from one business to a next, but you didn't change your behavior, you go from banking to insurance to pharmaceutical, whatever. Then you're going to get stuck. But if you didn't change your behavior, you're probably going to fail all of them.
Yeah.
Like if you
You're
didn't
changing.
figure out what was wrong.
Yeah. You're changing the stuff. You don't change the mindset. You don't change the framework. You don't change the pattern, but you're changing the stuff inside. Like this glass of water, people are very often trying to change what is inside the water rather than changing the framework. Because if I take another glass, like another color, I have one here. If I take this one and if I put the same water, the water will change. Why it changes is the same stuff, but it's a different mindset. It's a different framework. It's a different perspective. And this is what people have to change, their perspective, not to change the stuff. The stuff will change for them the moment they change perspective.
So what's like the audience could take maybe some key lessons learned that from you doing the work you've done that you think are important for people, maybe like some key lessons learned from your experience?
Well, the biggest one is my biggest message to the audience is to be authentic, to work on their authenticity and find out what is your authentic self, what is your biggest talent, what are your strengths, and work and develop your strengths. The moment you identify your talent and your strengths, you can create many things and miracles. And practically when you identify your talent, you can use your talent in many businesses, in many spheres. Your talent is your talent, and it can be used in many sectors and in many businesses. It's not only one thing. So the first thing is for people, find who is your authentic self, what is your talent and bigger strengths, and develop them. Because this is the fast track to success. Practically, it's not a fast track, but this is actually the right way to get to success. Another very important thing is to stop comparing to other people. Start comparing to yourself from yesterday. Really, we have to compare to other people only in terms to see how other people have succeeded. If someone is more successful than me, let's see, he have to be only a motivation for me to grow. It should not be something that I'm thinking from scarcity. Oh, I want to be like him. No, let's see what he is doing, and this could only motivates me how me to do in a better way. So this is another thing. Don't compare to other selves compared to yourself. This is a very important thing. Other important things is do the first step. Do the first step, and the second step will reveal after you do the first step. You will never be able to see the 10 steps because you don't know what would be the second and the third because you haven't done the first one. Second one is a result of the first one. And the third one is a result from the second and the first, and so on and so forth. So this is a key thing. And stop being perfectionist.
Yeah, I think perfection is like the enemy of growth.
Yes. People can write down their perceived imperfections because many people say, "Oh, I'm not good in this. I'm not good in that. I don't look here good in a best way." So people can write down their perceived imperfections, and the moment you write them down and you see them, you start liking them, and you start accepting yourself the way you are. So we have to accept ourselves like a whole thing, not only with the good things, but with our shadow side, because every person have a bright side and a shadow side. The thing is how much you live in the bright side and how much time you live in the shadow side. But always we have both. There is no person on earth only with the bright side. Everybody has both. Some people live more the bright side, other people live more the shadow side. But the moment you embrace the shadow side, the moment the resistance is gone. What you resist persists. So find out what is your shadow side, what are your weaknesses, and accept them. Because if you resist on your weaknesses, you will give life to them. But the moment you accept your weaknesses, you're relaxed. And you say, okay, I'm perfect the way I am. So embrace yourself like a wholeness. of your bright side and your shadow side, and live in your bright side. And once you're in your shadow side, just get out quickly from there.
Yeah, I think it's real important to kind of be able to pull from all the like aspects of yourself. Like a lot of people are multifaceted, and if artists, we can pull from like the things, the failures, right, and we can actually express it. It could put it into a painting, it becomes a feeling. Like, or an actor can take something that hurt them and put it into a performance. So you can take things that you could perceive as like weakness or something that was bad or sad or didn't feel good. But if you can actually make it like it's cathartic, to go through and not dwell on it, but to use it and you can get past it. If you can actually identify it and then figure out, like, hey, this was a hard thing. This was something that I felt was a limitation, but I could actually make it a strength. This is something that it's a quirk or people thought was odd, and they think it makes me look different. But that could be your advantage. You could actually think it could be you as a perceived weakness, but it could be part of your style. It's like your voice. Like you could have a little quirk in your voice that actually makes you very distinctive as an actor, or very distinctive as a singer or as a speaker, the way you phrase things. And it might not be like somebody else, and you were thinking it was a defect, but it's not. It's actually a thing that gives you the advantage.
So make the defects in effects. Like I always say to people, and this is another thing, just distort the information positively. The brain processes information in 5 ways, and one of those ways is to distort information. And usually people distort information in a negative way. But every situation has a positive thing and a negative thing. It has possibility and opportunity, and it has something that is bad. And people, if they try and change their mindset in every disadvantage, see what is the advantage in this disadvantage. And when you start looking like this, I've got a client the other day, and she had a meeting somewhere very important in her work, and she came in our session, and she said, "This time I was very curious what you're gonna say, because there is nothing good in this situation." And she was curious what would be the good thing I will extract out of this situation. And she was very surprised, because the way she explained the situation to me, I heard it very positively. I've heard only the positive things out of this situation, but she was seeing only the negative. And when I changed the perspective, and she said, "Wow, I never thought about this. I never saw this. I never looked at the situation like this." And it's like a very, very wonderful tool. If someone starts and distorting information positively, just, okay, this is a challenge, this is a bad thing. What is the good thing out of all these bad things? There is always something good. And it's not, in some situation might be less good things, in other good more, but the important thing is to train your brain thinking positively and looking for the positive things. And when you have the important situation at work or wherever are you there, then your brain will detect the positive thing. And
it's definitely, because sometimes if you just hide the negatives, it's like if you're in a company and you don't deal with the things that are problems, well, it will totally eat the company alive. Like you have to address the deficiencies, and then sometimes it's like if it might not look, it might be scary to tell the board that this thing isn't working. But then if you can't like hide it or paper over it, you got to be able to talk to it and not be scared that you're going to get the blame. Find a way to, turn that into an opportunity. Like I said, a bad note, like in music, is that a bad note or is that an opportunity?
Yes, and actually when you share, it's a good thing what you said, because when you share the failure, you can create success from the failure. And there is one real example for this. I don't remember in which year, but a scientific guy was trying to invent a glue that is very, how to say, it's very, it's a glue that when you put it, you cannot separate things.
Oh yeah, you can't, like super glue, like
Yes, super glue. Yeah, but he was not able to create this thing, and it was very white and light, and it was not like the one it's meant to be. But he didn't. He shared this with his friends and with the audience. And then later on, another scientific guy who was singing somewhere, and he was like a notebook, not a notebook, but like a small sticky note.
yeah, like those. That's how that came to be.
Yeah, but it was not a sticky note at that moment. It was a piece of paper, and he was singing, and this piece of paper fell down. And then this guy remembered about the glue. The other guy was not able to create it like a super glue. And this is how the Post-it, this
So they
sticky
came together. It was an accident.
Yes.
Like that was, we call a happy accident.
Yes.
Like you're trying to, like, you could think that's a failure, but it creates another product.
Yes, that's
Another
why
product could be a success. And, you know, the variation or the thing that you weren't looking for, you have to be open to it.
Yes, and this is how at first the place it was not a success, it was a failure, but an example of a failure can become a success. But if this guy has not shared his failure, either people would have known about this. And sticky notes, everybody is using them around the world today.
Yeah.
And this company is very successful, and this product is very successful. That's why it's very important, and it's another message for the audience. Just be courageous to share your failures.
Yeah, to share the result. Because if you share the results and, you know, you're scared of people, what they're going to think, is like, it could be an opportunity. Like you said, it could be the glue that creates the sticky note.
Yes,
You know, it could be like, you know, aspartame. It was supposed to be something that was like a medicine, and they said, well, it's sweet, became a sugar substitute. You know, they didn't know it was going to be sweet. They thought it was something else. So like things happen by accident all the time in science. And it happens in the arts too. Like people do something and it's like, well, it wasn't expected. Like, oh, well, it's a new dance. It's like a dancer could come up with some move. It's like, that's not what I was trying to do, but now it becomes a new thing. You know, like, so the unfound or newfound sound that wasn't intended becomes like the hook that makes your song work. And you're like, that's just the magic that happens, but you gotta be willing to embrace the imperfection. And this is why perfection is not always the best goal.
Yeah, and it's also the belief and the trust. If something is happening to you, it's for a reason. And there is a reason for this. And even if it's a failure at the first glance, at first thing, but then it might become a success. And if we live with this, that to trust what is happening to us, there is a reason for this, then things are changing. The game is changing.
Yeah, it's a very, well, I'm a Buddhist. We always believe there's a reason for everything that's happening. But I want to thank you. Like the time always goes by quicker. We already hit the hour. And it's like it always goes by faster than we ever expected. But we've had a great conversation. We do have your LinkedIn below, and that will be fully clickable. We were just live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. And I want to thank you for all the knowledge we've been able to relate to the audience today and the different points of view and mindset that I think people, if they listen to this and check it out, they'll find that it's going to help them in their lives to look at things in different ways. And I want to thank you for taking the time to be a guest on the Family Electric Coach podcast.
Thank you for inviting me and giving me the chance to share all that knowledge with the audience. And I hope we've been, it will be useful for them, and they found their answers of their questions. Thank you very much. It was really a privilege for me. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, have a great rest of your time in your day. Well, it's daytime here. I never remember what
Yeah.
time zone you're in, but
Yeah, it's nighttime. It's almost
nighttime.
6 o'clock. Yes, in the evening. Yeah.
Okay. Well, have a good night.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day, you.